thank you so much for giving us these incredible talks today. But what was shocking today is I feel like I went through an entire history channel, from seeing the design from a historical perspective and culture perspective to a modern day approach to redesigning culture. And I'd like to start with that word, culture, because it seems even every culture was a little different. We talked a little bit about it, you know, from the French culture, you use a lot of the historical elements, all of the little components of that to drive it, versus you were saying, maybe in Amsterdam, it seems completely different. Like, so how does culture fit into our visual design identities?
Well, I think culture is super important. Like we said, France and the Netherlands are so close by, but you see a difference in the approach so much. Can you imagine? China is such a big country. There must be so many different cultures. And how important it is in our design approach, you said?
It felt like two different worlds.
Yeah.
You know, the French had a very different perspective on a lot of what they have to integrate, all the tiny elements, the little imperfections, the other ones, versus maybe Amsterdam seems much more simplistic, modernistic.
The Dutch is a flat country. It's very flat, very simple. And people are very straightforward. They don't accept authority also. They're sort of like, this is it. And you see that the French are also already more poetic, more artistic. They have indeed more sort of sense for detail, and you know, maybe you can say more about that. But you see those differences.
I would first say that I have shown also something that is Notre Dame. So it's a very special project for me, because all the projects are not exactly like Notre Dame. It's a project that has a very, very strong heritage background. And I think I had to take time to have an understanding about that background. But because it's an heritage from the Middle Age, but not only from the Middle Age, but also for Renaissance, for Viollet-le-Duc. There were some milestones, you know, also during that time. So it's not only just one time in the past. There are different levels of the past. So it's a complicated heritage, if I can say. And you have to take time to have an understanding about what you were on the shoulder in a certain way. And it was important to say that for 2 years, I couldn't take a pencil. I had to have an understanding. For instance, I took my stick for doing pilgrims overall in Europe, but also in foreign countries, to see how the message, how can you design a message in such a context. And because I have never designed anything for sacred things, for instance. And I had always a question, which is a little paradox. Is design necessary in a certain way? Because you are on a white sheet, and if I'm not here, perhaps you don't need any design. It's also interesting to see if you are absolutely necessary or not necessary, because there was a white sheet before. Because if you are going in the churches, there's no more design in a certain way, because the people are away, or only with, there's no professionalism of design. And sometimes you can see, you can hear something that says it is over-designed. Also in the Netherlands.
Of course.
Because it's also, when there's no design, sometimes you can share also something when there is no design. Not necessary. And so I remember also, for instance, when the bishop, I saw him the first time, we were around a table, and he said, what are you doing? Oh, you are architect. You are furniture designer. Fantastic. Light design, extraordinary, because it's a spectacle, you know? And you, what are you doing? Oh, I am a set designer. Fantastic. And you, what are you doing? I said, I am a graphic designer. And said, I don't understand what it is. What's graphic design? You know, just a... And I said to him, I'm, as you said, I'm just shaping the messages. And he said, silence.
Boring.
You are the verb. He said it like this. And then he said, welcome, you are the verb. But in fact, it was when you come in a church today or in Christian time now, I felt that there are in the mind of the bishop, there are craftsmen, it exists, you know, because craft is very important, also during the Middle Age, and art, so this is existing. Also artists, of course, and because they have also the sense, the emotion sensibility, but design in between doesn't exist. So it was completely a new introduction, if I can say, in the French way.
But isn't that the challenge that we're facing now in a modern world even?
Exactly.
What is the role of design? You know, if you say you're a designer, what does that mean? And we're now in the era of AI and new technologies that are completely transforming the way design may be used or created from an interesting tool as you did. So as we look as designer, what is the role of a designer? How would you describe a designer today? We're all designers in this room, but am I a graphic designer? Am I a visual designer? Now you've got so many areas you're designing that's got to interact. So what is a designer of today? I'm going to start with you, Nikki. You're going first. You don't have time to think through this one.
Design is always something you change. So if you start designing something, you're sort of changing. It's an act of change. So there's this need for something. You want to transform a society. You want to design together a certain topic. You want to change something. And that's for me also always about curiosity. So I think a designer is a very broad concept. It's a person, it's people coming together to talk about something they want to do different. So it can be a visual design, can be an architectural design, it could be, you know, so we have, of course, different positions in designing, but of course it's in the end something we want to change. We want to bring into a new era.
But you also said, the old school of design may be, I could sit down as a graphic designer and take a set of tools and come up with a design or typography. But the new one is about collaboration, it seems like. It seems that it's so complicated. Trying to understand this world of design across so many different channels, spatial, visual, typography, it's all about a different type of collaboration, right? Like, I think your team, you said, your team's completely made up and working together so that you are working in a different way than you have in the past, or is it the same?
If I try to define what is design, which is quite complicated in a certain way, because you are inside of the definition, and you don't have the possibility to simplify. But I would say, how can you design a shape to an environment with a process, because with a complex process today in a certain way. And this is why, for instance, for Notre Dame, we needed to be a group and with a solidarity in a group with architects, furniture, because it's on all the sizes, it's all the scales. Architecture is a scale, the big scale, if I can say, but we are working for intermediate scales and also the small scales, if I can say, when you have a book in a certain way, it's also architecture, but in another scale. And we have to manage to work all together to build up this harmony, because harmony is the aim at the end, to see if there is a harmony that to design this this environment.
And within that harmony, where do you start? Like M+, as an example, you said, okay, you came, you visited, you had gray, but on such a complex visual identity, what's the foundation and the beginning of this to really bring it to life?
Well, like you say, the world is so complex. There's so many visual expressions everywhere. So for us, it's always important that you visit the space, that you interact, that you meet the people, talk to the people. What do they want to achieve? What are their visions? And then you try to bring that back to a very simple conceptual idea. And that was in the M+ case, it was the color wheel from mid-tone colors into 50% gray to reflect the city on the one hand, but also give color in the gray building. So this simple idea, and then from there having a lot of fun in playing with it and adapt it into very expressive, in an expressive way. I think that's what was your question?
Well, I think how does it start? You know, where do you start from? Oh, I'm just going to look at a color wheel. I like that visual. Or what's the foundation of M+? You said, you know, it's for...
The foundation is always start to talk with the people who are involved and who want to bring something. Because we, as designers, we make stronger what their minds is. It's always a collaboration. We cannot design without their interaction. So in this case, M+, the program, the SIG collection, the amazing exhibitions they organize, the city of Hong Kong, the people who live there. So all these things we take into account. They are all stakeholders in that sense. And then, as a designer, you try to grasp that also intuitively. And then you go sit down and think, what is the core, what we have seen so far and what we felt, and try to bring that into a concept. That's how we do it, but you do it in a different way. I mean, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
And yeah.
No, but as you said, we have also the cultural background is also different with France and the Netherlands.
Yes.
Because you specified that you have a fantastic culture and tradition with the Bauhaus, the Netherlands. So you can see a genealogy, if I can say, a culture that has been built up very...
I must say that's something you bring with you, and that's also what we do. You want to bring your cultural baggage, right?
Yes, you have a cultural baggage which is very strong, I think, in the Netherlands, because it's also very well known, with Switzerland also, and we can share also, we can share a common hero with Jean Widmer, because it was in your slides. I didn't know that you had integrated him in your slides. But I think in France you have also something that is related to the artists, really, and the inspiration and the emotion that is a specific, you say romantic, if I can say, or poetic. And I think also this is perhaps a Latin way to integrate the history and the deep history and emotions that are providing with the artists. And when you can see, for instance, our history of the first posters, they were done by artists, with Toulouse-Lautrec, for instance, which was a fantastic painter, and he described the society, and he has also done the first posters, and they are magic. They are still standing alive today. When you see a poster of Toulouse-Lautrec, designed 100 years ago, it is still very, very strong. We had an understanding about graphic design, but with the specificity about what you said, the line, the emotion, the spontaneity of the drawings. And the question about drawing is something that is still important. You said it just before. For us, we keep this as a basic element for culture in a certain way. For instance, in our school, I remember when you had an exercise to do perspective, perspective, to design perspective. Our professor said, if I see you use a ruler, schlag, it's not allowed, because perspective is drawing with your hand. And we needed more than 1 year to draw just the right ellipse, because the ellipse is the way to draw a round, but in perspective. And it's very hard to draw an ellipse, you know, a perfect ellipse. It's extraordinarily difficult. When you see a painting of the Renaissance, you can see the artist in 1562 or something like this, approximately. They draw perfectly the things with a perspective, but when they have to paint the ellipse, wow, then there is a problem. There is a problem in the ellipse, because the ellipse, exactly the problem of geometry and of drawing something. It's not so easy to draw an ellipse. Well,
so what happens today now with technology, taking so many of these new tools, perhaps, giving us an entirely different set of creative tool sets to allow us to create things that we couldn't even conceive of, maybe by ourselves. Now, how does the old school, understanding heritage, the other ones, fit in with this new school or new approach of AI generative design?
For me, it's absolutely not an old school. Drawing is the school of today. If I have Darren, I can take my pencil here. My pencil is my hidden tool, you know, and I quickly can draw something and convince you that that would be the idea for the future. So drawing is the quickest idea to tell something. And it is now, it's not an old tool. It's a tool for today. No, it's important. Yeah,
this is the line of the day. The pencil is the tool of the day.
It's a permanent tool because it's your finger. Because our finger is a principal tool. Where eye is a tool. We have the tools are the body. This is the tool. The elements absolute of the tool. With the finger, we can draw, we can do things. We don't need, of course, we need now other tools. But I think it's I think it's not a good idea to say that drawing is a former tool and this is it's not a chronology of tools. I don't think so. And for instance, I know that AI today brings a lot of questions, if I can say, and it's not especially only a tool. But in a certain way, we welcome AI in our process of design because, of course, we are designers because we are in a process in a certain way. So everybody can come in our process. Every tool is welcoming in a process.
I think you said you're part of it, right? AI is part of the team
exactly,
now, correct? You treat it like
exactly.
a person.
For us, it's like a person who comes, a guest, welcome as a guest in our team. And this is why I tried to show, for instance, on Notre Dame, how also, because Notre Dame is not something from the past. This is not right. Notre Dame is the center of Paris, it is the center of the city, and it is a permanent construction site in a certain way, permanent construction site. And at each time there is a voice from from contemporary. We are also have a contemporary voice of how we have an insight on Notre Dame today. But we have respect now on the heritage background. But it is the way we see Notre Dame today in a certain way.
I think there's also, we talked a little bit about the fact that getting out and being in the physical world, and this is where as we become this digital age, I think we've relied too many on digital tools rather than actually getting the experiencing in person in a physical space and spatial. And it feels like this is kind of a big area of design that's coming back to saying, you've got to get out. And this was a concern you said with some of the students even. Do we have enough time to go out and experience things in Europe or London or why we did the Netherlands trip, right? So how important is the physical and the experience to deliver this?
Well, the physical is super important. That's also, this morning I spoke to the students. That's, I guess, everybody said it, that we need to connect and talk to each other, share our thoughts, our dreams, our fears, and then things will come out. So physically is super important, but I also think that the two can live together. I mean, it already does, you know. So we have these devices, and it's the connection with spatial and the internet, which is a given thing. We use it. So.
Can you be a designer in it? Can you be a sole designer? I remember you used to have you said famous designers, right? They had a look, they had a thing. But today, if we have like 10 people collaborating.
No, but Lance Wyman, you saw that the people walked into his visual system all over the city of Mexico. The only thing which is different is now that we have an app next to it. So the Schiphol thing you saw, and also in MTR or where you are, you have your thing. It's part of the customer journey. It's part of your experience. The only thing is, for me personally, the tactile and so it's just like you say AI, it comes in my team. And I say, of course, the digital things are part of all the things you need, but the real life is at most important because we want to feel and hug, smell, touch. Yeah, you cannot lose that.
I think that makes the difference between a designer just working out of a bedroom and never leaving their studio versus one that's traveling or interacting and engaging, fabrics, talking about going into the factories and seeing these things as well and touching them is probably one of the best things on design overall. Yeah. What's your advice that you're going to give to designers, you know, young designers today from your experience that somebody should have told you 20, 30 years ago?
Oh, those things are always difficult. Well, like I said already, stay close to yourself and be curious.
You said
curious.
mystery. You broke up that word mystery from earlier, and then it was curious, and that was even the theme of Business of Design Week. Was curiosity.
Yeah,
and how important that is to delivering successful work.
Yeah, stay open for everyone, for the diversity of the world, all the cultures, what we spoke about.
For me, there is some danger. There are some danger, if I can say, because I would say yes, the AI is coming, but for me, if I can say, we have to keep the palette very open, the palette of design processes with the matter, and because with the AI there is a certain facility to go to the results. And then to abandon all this palette. Because the problem is we are delegating a lot of things to the machines today. We are delegating our energy in a certain way. Because today energy is providing from a huge waste to, but to the machines, and not anymore to the human. Human has an energy, but I hope that for the future generation, they can still have their human energy, if I can say, because it is necessary to keep the open palette and to have the contrast, and just to be sure that you're not invited to abandon completely the knowledges in a certain way. Because the knowledges bring by human, they need energy. They need memory. They need to suffer a little, if I can say. They need attention. And we can see that with now the AI, it brings facility. It gives quick. it goes with a certain speed, with a certain efficiency. So you can quickly abandon and then reduce completely the open-minded or the different processes you are invited to go.
Maybe I think that's very correct what you say, because I said, yeah, it's just a given thing that we have this phone always next to us. But it's also maybe then ignorance occurs, right? Because then it becomes easy. And so maybe we should push ourselves to sort of sometimes put it away and deliberately make a choice of, now I'm going out, now I'm going to meet people, now I'm going to visit a super nice exhibition. So maybe that's also important, that we don't take it for granted.
Yes.
But how do you push that in a fast-paced world where clients or other people are going, oh, I need this immediately, I need this tomorrow, I need this, you know, and we're working in a fast, you've had
but
years
you see
to
counter
deliver
movements coming up. You see that lots of young people love to knit. They are sitting next to their television program and they're knitting, or they make all hand. My daughter, she's also at the Design Academy in Eindhoven. She started in her first year. She's sewing all kinds of textile little tests she makes with shapes. She loves it, and then she's hugging her dog meanwhile, cooking. So there's this also sort of a next a counter thing happening, that people appreciate the tactile and the human touch even more because of this complexity, because of the speed. So, but I think...
I think also it's a question about generation. When you can see the 20th century, for me, it's waves, different waves of generation. And the next generation is against the precedent generation. And now we are a completely different world. Not like a new wave against a new wave and a new wave. I think with AI also, paradoxally, the generations have to live together and to work together. And then to be sure, because I am in my studio, I am the old, I'm the old man now, 64, but I'm still very active. And we know that when we have a project, we can designate somebody who has 30 years or something. He is 50, and we prepare a team where there is the collaboration is obligatory. And with different generations, because then you can see that the AI is a guest, and how you can then better work with different tools, with different approach, with different ways to work. We never work individually, never. Because when you work individually, because we are freelance in a certain way, today the freelance is a way to work individually. And then you are a little threatened, if I can say, because you are alone. But if we can start to work and to collaborate with different generations, with different people, and then with different disciplines, interdisciplinary, then you have, it's a complicated program where the tools, you can have a better evaluation.
And it's necessary, because the problems in the world are getting bigger, the complexity is getting bigger, so we need to collaborate. And that's so nice about Asia. I spoke to, where's the guy, the MC? Where is he? Well, anyway, we had a nice conversation that he said, Mike. He said, I always see from Asia, I'm feeling more connected to Europe or the Western world, because I think that more things are able there. And I was like, but that's not true. For me, the Asian world, the Asian people are so used to collaborate, to share, to work together. They're not that individualistic as we are, as you could see in the film of Amsterdam, super individualistic people. And I think those two values, or maybe more, all the values, should come together to make a next step in our world.
I think we were talking about PMQ. It was an interesting, very successful area based upon that whole concept where they're really putting different creative perspectives together and working. Because honestly, in Asia, we've also seen people sit next to each other and not collaborate a lot of times and still focus on this stuff. And I think this is the biggest part that we want to take away today from really about that is that you really have to force yourself to sit with different disciplines, different people, different tools, different technologies you've never had. And then what comes out of that is really spectacular.
Yeah, and the creative process is never linear. You never know exactly. It's also a bit scary sometimes, but you need to have the trust that something will come out which will be.
Said that creativity is one of the most destructive forces in the universe. Because it takes you on a journey that you cry, you laugh, you go here, you come back to where you started.
Yeah.
But when you get there, especially as a team, that's the aha moment, I think, where you all looked and going, wow, we've really created something spectacular.
Yeah, well, that's...
I remember, because now I have a son, he's 35, so it's a lot. Huh? But when he was young, 8 years old, I bring him to the studio during the holidays. You know that as parents, of course. And so I brought him at the atelier, and he was sitting, and we were walking. But at the end of the day, when we came back to the house, he said, Papa, when are you walking? Because he was considering that we were joking all the time and not walking. Playing, yes, exactly, playing. He didn't understand that what we are doing, it was work. For him, it was just playing. And it's interesting, the idea about what is the work today also.
Let's play.
I think you said that about design. At the heart of it is how do you be, what's going to make you the most successful? And you said it was doing something that you love, right?
Exactly.
And finding, because design is so complex, so pick the areas that you really love to do, that you have fun, you connect, you engage with, and then you connect with other people that maybe you're not specialized in. That's, I think, at the heart of really the new success of what design in the future is, right? We get some time for some questions in the audience, I believe. Do we, right? Does anybody have a question? Is anyone bold enough to come up and start off with that question? Yeah, do they have a microphone? Oh, well, we got one back there with the microphone, so you get to go next.
Okay, lady first, right?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Lopo. I work for an art and design educational studio for children from 1.5 years old to 18 years old. So I'm very happy to hear you guys saying that we got to bring the children to do some humanity basic stuff and keep their curiosity going. But to my student, I have a question. We are trying to integrate art learning and design learning together because to us and to all the parents, they still think these two disciplines are different. Like art is more like self-expression, design is more like problem solving or purposeful working, something. Yeah, so I just want to hear from you both. And I know you guys are parents too, so yeah. I want to hear from you, from your European professional practitioner perspective, like how we, in an Asian society. No, I shouldn't put the culture as a framework. And art and design integration, education for people for the future readiness. So, what do you suggest? Yeah.
Who's first?
That's a very complicated one.
Well, it is a very complicated question because I also understand that you refer to the parents who, of course, hope for their children that they will have a good place in society where they can look for themselves, that they, so you said your parents yourself. My daughter is indeed at the Design Academy, and she doesn't know what way she would like to go in design, because she's very artistic, and I think she wants to be more in the free direction than in the client-based studio field. I really don't have an answer to your question, because as a mother, I would say, ooh, maybe scary, you know, because who's waiting for your art, and is there a future in art? And on the other hand, I want to give her the trust to explore this for herself, because she needs to make those choices in the end. And she is wise enough to look at society and to see, you know, where she can tap in and not, and where her talents are. So it's also, that is a process. I don't think there's a right answer to it. It's the process of the students themselves. And they have to stay close to their heart, stay close to themselves, and look around. And then I think in your question, do we need to educate art and design and at a sort of an equal level? Yes. As a teacher or educator, you just give opportunities. Right or not? I think that's how I feel. That you just aanbod, how do you say it? Give, just show. Yeah.
Well, it's the industry is changing. Is everybody in this room? Everybody here today. It's the Hong Kong Design Center, HKDI. It's us going into the world and saying a different, what is design? You know, and this is the thing that we have to take control of. You know, everybody in this room leaving here today and saying, what am I as a designer? And I think the more that we start putting that out in the world as an industry, the stronger that we become in industry.
I would also say just something with a very specific approach, very basic, if I can say, between art and design. Because what's the difference? For me, it's really interesting to see the strategy about finance. Fact. Because a designer, he says, well, how much time I will spend on what I will work on. He is trying to see like this like an engineer in a certain way. He will say the cost of what I'm doing, I will try to expect the cost because I will take that time with so many people, and it will take that time and everything. And generally, it is in a tender, you know, in a relationship that you are building with somebody or with a client, with an institution, with somebody who has something, with a tender. And then he says, this is a financial approach, it will cost that. And an artist, it has a completely other strategy. It has nothing to say about the time. It's a timeless, it has nothing to do with that. It is a relationship also with another environment. It could be a gallery, mostly, and he has a value that can, a fluctuation of the value. There is a market for that also. And the value can be very low and very high in a certain way. It can be very speculative. And for instance, today, the speculation is very strong on the market of art. Not not in design. In design, there is no speculation. We are still on the, I don't know exactly, Nikki, but we have an approach. It doesn't. It's a stand. It is really the same with the Widmer or with the. It doesn't change in a certain way.
But how do you bring value to that? Because if you're saying it's time, this is the problem with designers now, is that we then going, oh,
you're right.
I'm not spending that much. That's too much. So how do you show the value of what that design is bringing?
Yes, because the value now is. You're right. You're right. It's a problem too in design because also with AI, we know that the values will change also. What, for instance, in the execution program today with the AI, it will transform also the value of the things. But the time you will spend is still time that you will spend. Perhaps you will spend more time for advising or to do decision control or to have agent of AI and everything. So there will be, of course, a changement, an evolution about what I am supposed to be in my activity as designer. But the financial idea is the same. And perhaps you will have less execution and more decision, design thinking,
consultative, strategy,
and so on.
Yes.
But it is the same frame with financial idea.
Okay, we had the other question.
I think we're getting onto something very interesting, because I was going to ask something about value as well, because you're saying, you know, in a group of designers, in a meeting, you say you're a graphic designer and people are staring at you blankly, you know, what do you do, right?
Yes.
I myself find it very difficult to justify, or constantly trying to having the need to justify what I bring, what is the value that I bring to the table. And I think the previous question about art and design is very interesting, because, you know, we also have things like speculative design or critical design, which Eindhoven is really known for. You know, they don't need to choose art or design, they can do both, or they question where the boundary lies, right? But how do you articulate the values that are not transactional, or you cannot put a price tag to it? You know, the time factor you were mentioning, it's resources, it's resource planning, is costing, right? But sometimes the creative process takes you to somewhere you hadn't planned before. But how do you articulate those really intangible, non-transactional values in what we do? I don't know.
I think we're all figuring that out, actually.
I know, but it was my problem with Gillian. Because Gillian said me, it was just, Gillian, I can say it? I don't know if it's possible, but for instance, I brought the suitcase with these elements. For me, it's experimental. And Gillian said to me, I would like to have one exemplar to keep it for our library, for our archive here in Hong Kong. And I said, yeah, oh, wow. Because I have only one exemplar, well, so I have to print them again, you see, in France, because we have a Korean delegation in June, and it has to be ready then if I leave it in Hong Kong. And then I said to all, I said to you, Gillian, it's really, we didn't know exactly what's the cost of it. Because for us, it is a treasure in a certain way. We have only one exemplar, and we have written things about this. We didn't expect the cost of all. It was just a communication process. But today, we know what it has a cost, because you said, I would like you to leave it in the library of the university.
And in
so
that
we
sense,
have to think about that, and we are a little lost, I must say.
Yeah, so it's not really about mass production, like the way we usually publish a book and distribute it, right?
For me, the answer of what you are saying is that in the end, as a graphic designer, I can only stay close to myself, and also when I see your work, we finally bring culture. So apart from the financial value, the value is that after a while, and you keep on going in your practice, and you produce, and you make those identities, in our case, and in your case, the Notre Dame, it brings culture, a new kind of culture in the world. Exactly. And I think, for me, that's the reason I want to make things which I think are really important to me and valuable, more visible in the world. And the sum up of those projects is a new culture. So that's my contribution then, I think.
How are we doing on time, by the way? I don't know if the
I
time
think
checker or
the students are already very tired.
Time to cut off. So, well, at the heart, we want to thank you, everybody, for coming. And I think I want to end on an interesting part. You showed M+ today, and we had, you know, that was one of the best brand exercises I saw, because it really brought M+ to life in multiple ways across space, visuals, screens, physical. And I think in this world of AI, we're going to start getting AI slop, that what we start seeing is everything's going to be the same. What stands out? We have a new one coming, Central Yards, that I just saw as well happening. But I look at that design and I go, does it bring an emotional connection? Does it touch me as a human, as physical as M+ does, or some of those other ones? And I think that's what's going to be the value. And it's just, how do we communicate that value, show that value? And that's where we got to spend our time in the future, and working with each other to help deliver that and push forward the next generation of design. And Hong Kong's going to lead the way on that, right? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.